So my name is Lisa Petrie, and I live in Richmond. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm not a natural activist, to put it mildly. I hate confrontation, and public speaking makes me nervous. I do enjoy cheering others when they make important points, as you may have noticed, but I prefer not to be the one at the mic. But I've gone outside my comfort zone and become a climate justice activist because the climate crisis is a true global emergency. And in an emergency, you don't ask what's comfortable or convenient or politically expedient. You just do everything you can to try to save lives and avert the most catastrophic impacts. Most people don't realize it's an emergency and aren't acting like it's an emergency, but that doesn't mean that it's not. 10 and 20 years from now, most people will realize that the climate crisis is an emergency, and we'll all look back to this time and ask ourselves what we could have done, what more we could have done. And our children and grandchildren will want to know what we did at this watershed moment in human history. It's all hands on deck, and we all need to do everything we can. As others have said, I know it must be hard to face us all and hear our passion, our anger, and our distrust. It's hard for me to speak, but I know it's even harder for you to hear us all. I don't know much about you, so I have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask. I just want a show of hands. First of all, how many of you believe that climate change is real and human-caused?
We're not going to do questions. If you have comments, you can make your comments.
All right. The other question is, how many of you think that we can afford to increase our fossil fuel consumption at this point? Others have said this, but I think it bears repeating. This is a very weighty decision, and you can either do the right thing now or regret it later. As Greg Garrett said last week, you can't defer to FERC on this because FERC is a rubber stamp machine. In all their decades of reviewing fossil fuel projects, they rejected exactly one and approved hundreds, perhaps thousands of pipelines, compressor stations, power plants, et cetera, et cetera. So trusting FERC, and one of the projects that they recently approved that a few of us in this room were involved in fighting was a 42-inch gas pipeline within about 100 feet of an aging nuclear power plant in the metropolitan New York area near an earthquake fault line. So trusting FERC to ensure that projects like this won't harm public health or safety is like trusting Donald Trump with the nuclear codes. Even his own hand-picked military advisors know that that would be reckless and immoral. And they have reported, or others have speculated, about conversations that they may have had amongst themselves about what they would do in such a situation, including the possibility of wrestling the president to the ground. That would be illegal, but I think we all agree that would be the right thing to do under the circumstances. Others have made a very strong case that you have many reasons that are within your purview, that are consistent with the law, that would allow you to reject this project. But even if that weren't the case, the fact is, if you don't stop it, it's going to go through unless people physically stop it with their bodies. FERC will not save us. So saying that this is FERC's decision and their authority preempts yours is not, it's not an adequate response. It's not the responsible thing to do. I hope that you will be responsible and rise to the occasion and do the moral thing. Thank you.